Hi there. Would you like to learn how to make this delicious, nutritious soup that your family will love? Stay tuned for the next episode of Hilltop Stovetop. Hello and welcome back to Hilltop Stovetop, the show where we're teaching you how to make great meals in an ordinary kitchen. Today we are making leek and bacon soup. Traditionally this is made with potatoes, but we're going to have a little variation on that because we're trying to go keto right at the moment. So we're using cauliflower instead of potatoes. Also traditionally, because this is a cream soup, it's very heavy on the milk. Personally, I find that a little overwhelming, so I do half milk or cream in this case, and half vegetable bouillon. And this is a special shout out to my brother-in-law Paul, who's suggested that I try Knorr brand liquid bouillon. Those of you who watched my videos before would know that I love better than bouillon, which is a paste, but this is a liquid. It's about the same volume to 1.5 teaspoons of this per cup of water. So it works out about the same. So we're going to test out the differences in the flavor today. So I've already mixed up about 2 cups of the vegetable bouillon. I've got my bacon already frying. Now this is one of these recipes that when I had teenage students living with me, this was actually one of their favorites. And it's very easy and quick to make. And so that's why I want to show you folks how to do this. So we're going to fry up the bacon. I've got another pot where I'm going to start with the bouillon. And I'm going to put in the cauliflower. So if you're using potatoes, about the same amount here, so that's about 2 cups. In this case, I was able to use up the stalk of the cauliflower. I had a very nice fresh cauliflower that I've chopped up. And the bacon, it's about half a pound of bacon. I say 2 to 3 strips per serving when you're making this. And then what I did with the other half a pound of bacon and the rest of the cauliflower is I just cooked it up in the air fryer. So you can see here, I'll just do a little close up here. There's the grilled cauliflower, and I've got pre-cooked bacon. So that's the start of another meal along the way. So what we do here is we're going to just get all of these things simmering away. As soon as this bacon is starting to brown, I'll drain some of the fat off of it and add in the leeks. So while we're waiting for that, let's talk about leeks here. And so I've already done up 1. I bought 2. So this is what a leek looks like. When you buy them in the store, they're usually, sometimes they're bundled together in 3 or 4, sometimes they're individually. They're a member of the onion family, so they've got the root down at the bottom, and they've got this part up here at the top. And you're going to cut off a good chunk of that. They don't sell it like this, because if they did, then this part would all dry out. Because you can see how the top of it dries out just in shipping. So that's our first step, is to cut the drier part of the greens off. And the farther up the greens you go, the stronger the flavor is. It's normally a very sweet, subtle onion flavor. And then we're going to peel off, we've taken off the root and the end, and we're going to just peel off the outer layer as a starting point. And one of the things that happens is as this is growing, the dirt that it's growing in kind of wants to stick in between the leaves. So we're going to cut it in half lengthwise and just have a quick look between the green parts here. And the bigger ones, you can see how there's actually little bits of dirt in between there. So I'm going to just take that over to the sink and rinse that off. I'm going to try to keep the end together because that makes it easier to chop. But I'm going to make sure that all of the dirt is out of the top of that. And just give this a quick stir before I abandon it for a minute. Be right back. So there, we got it all cleaned up. And now we're just going to take it and making sure that we're keeping our fingers out of the way, slice it into nice, no more than 1/4 inch slices. Okay, so now we're going to drain some of this fat off of the bacon. Not all of it, we're going to want some in the soup, but and then we add the leeks in with the bacon. And we're going to let that cook until the leeks are just softened, starting to get just a little bit translucent. And meanwhile, the cauliflower is cooking away. And I think we'll just take a little pause here and be right back. All right, and we're back. And as you can see, the leeks have softened up nicely, so I just have that on the bare minimum to just keep it warm for a minute. The cauliflower has also softened nicely, or if we were using potatoes, that would have been softening nicely. About 5 minutes there. Now, this part is optional, but what I am going to do is I am going to use the hand blender and just blend in those bits of cauliflower. If you don't have a hand blender, you could use a potato masher, or you could just leave them in chunks. It doesn't matter, but we're going to smooth this part of it up a little bit. And so I still have some chunks in there, but it's a little smaller and it has more of that potato kind of a look to it. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this part and pour that over our bacon and leek mixture. And then using the same pot, I'm going to make the cream base for this. So I've got about 1/4 cup of butter here that I'm going to melt up and add in a couple of tablespoons of flour. And it doesn't matter if I'm using the same spoon because this is all going to end up all together. And butter and flour together is what's known as a roux, and that's what's going to thicken up this this soup. So we're going to make sure that that's nice. Oh, it would help if I turned the burner back on, wouldn't it? This is what proves it's an ordinary kitchen. I do funny things like that. I think I'm going to add about, make that 3 tablespoons of flour. The more flour you put in, the thicker it's going to be, of course, depending on the volume of milk that you add in. And what I'm using here, this is just, this is table cream. Because of the keto factor, we're going a little bit higher fat than normal. But you could use just regular milk, or if you wanted to use milk alternatives, you could do that as well. So yeah, we've got the flour and butter mixture just bubbling up. And I'm going to add in, that's about half of a carton. So that's like a pint, a couple of cups of the cream. And we're just going to let that come to a little bit of a simmer, and that's what will thicken it up. Anytime you're dealing with flour, as soon as it hits a boiling point, that's when it's cooked. And while that is happening, we'll give this a stir together. And you'll notice that I've kept this simmering, so we've got all of those flavors coming together. Now, the one thing that I haven't done is I haven't added salt and pepper. And I think I'm going to do some pepper to this right now while we're thinking about it. But I'm going to wait to add the salt because there is salt in the bacon. And there's also a certain amount of salt in that pre-made bouillon. So I'm going to wait till it's all together and just have a quick taste before I add too much more, because if you add too much salt, that's harder to get rid of. It's not impossible, but it is harder to deal with. Just turn that up. See, the steam is starting to come off of that. It's starting to come up to a boil. You'll also notice that even though we were fast forwarding through that bit, I did keep stirring it throughout, because if I didn't, the part that's on the bottom of the pot would be inclined to stick, and then you'd end up with more of lumps. Okay. So that's thickened up. It's not thick enough that it would make a sauce, but it's thicker as if it was a more of a soup kind of consistency, thicker than just plain cream. All right, so now we have a nice thick soup consistency. I'm going to turn that down a little bit. And now it's time to add the bacon and the leeks and the vegetable broth back into this. And I'm doing it by the spoonful just because this is two very hot things and I don't want to be splashing things unnecessarily. Don't want any accidents in the kitchen here. There we go. Beautiful restaurant quality potato, leek, and either, well, no, I'm going to say bacon and leek and either potatoes or cauliflower. But as I mentioned, I am going to have a quick taste of this just to make sure that I've got the seasoning right before I call everybody to the table. And it will be hot. We're spot on there. So that that bouillon worked quite well, and the salt in the bacon was just exactly enough. So now we're ready. So you can see how that's thick with vegetables, and of course, who doesn't like bacon and cream? So there we have it. Hope you enjoyed today's visit to Hilltop Stovetop and our making of leek and bacon soup. And don't forget to like and subscribe because you wouldn't want to miss the next episode. And we will see you again soon. Bye-bye now.